This is the vlog for September 9th, 2018, and I had a weird experience today. I experienced creative drain or creative exhaustion. That probably doesn't sound too surprising to some people, or at least sounds familiar. They may have gone through it before, but for those of you who haven't, there comes a point when generating ideas over a long period of time, in this case, Friday night, all of yesterday, and this morning, you start to just sort of run dry. Like you start to go, and then what? And it's not good to keep going at that point. That's a definite sign that it's time to stop, because you need to have more, I don't know, inspiration. I'm trying to get this. There we go. That feels better. And so for me, I've been working on these characters, and I got to a point where even though these are not characters that are going to technically play the game, or be played, I guess, I've mapped out their level progression, specifically where certain characters are going to multi-class, and it's a neat thing, because I want these characters to experience the idea of trying something new and have that be sort of an important story point. But that also presents a problem because as of right now, I think I've got 7 characters. 3 of them are definitely going to multi-class. The other 4, not so much, at least not early on. So unless I have something else for them, they're going to feel, from a story perspective, like there's something sort of lacking. They're everybody else is having cool stuff happen to them, but they aren't having nearly as many sort of epiphanies or moments of like, this is how I do things, this is how I succeed, and why I'm amazing. So I think to sort of balance that out, I'm going to have to introduce other aspects of their progression as characters, while still maintaining that feeling of D&D leveling up, kind of, because that's an exciting part. I know some people who play D&D just to level up, just because of the gratification they get when they have a new ability or new spell that they can incorporate into their gameplay. And I think that's one of the things that has made Dungeons and Dragons endure, honestly. There are 2 things that I think keep people playing for long periods of time in a single campaign. One is loot, the stuff that you get. The gold and jewels, sure. In real life, we would love to have those sort of things so that we could use them to purchase fancy cars or big houses or stuff. But even if you bought a house for your character in Dungeons and Dragons, your character gets to live there, but you don't. You don't enjoy the vicarious experiences that they have relaxing in a hot tub, for example. People that are playing D&D generally want the social interaction with their character and NPCs, and combat, and doing acts of daring, or overcoming intrigue and things like that. So, magic items especially offer a means of sort of asserting their authority and power within the world, as does leveling up. Even characters that aren't likely to make a lot of use of magic items, except as basic stat increasing items, especially like fighters and stuff, they need new tricks, they need new abilities to keep them going, so that they don't go, I attack the guy in front again. Because I've been in that situation. I've been the guy that plays the fighter, and watching spellcasters all around me do these amazing things, and then the guy turns to you, so what do you do with your action? I'm going to block everybody from getting back to the spellcasters. And I attack the guy in front. So they need to be like, I attack the guy in front with Divine Smite if they're a paladin, or I attack the guy in front with Fury of Blows if they're a monk, that sort of thing. Fighters have a wide range, especially battle masters, which I think was a subclass created specifically to appeal to people who are, get bored doing the same thing over and over again. You have like mocking blow or deft strike or disarming attack and things that have additional impact on what's going on in the battle other than just straight damage. And the great thing about a prose setting is that, in contrast to the actual tabletop game where you say, okay, everybody level up, figure out what your new abilities are. When you come to play on next week, we will get started and expect tougher creatures. And then they go home and they just mark down the stuff on the sheet. And when they show up, they're like, oh, cool, I want to use my mocking blow now. Okay, you can. But in a prose setting, you can actually go through the process of how that character gains that ability. How they, what happens when a wizard learns a new spell, and that feeling they have of, wanting to try it out and seeing what will happen. And it makes me giddy. I mean, I want to be able to write for that and experience that and give all these 7 characters, ample screen time. And 7's actually not that bad. The problem with 7 characters is when villains start showing up and keeping track of all the enemies. But I had plenty of large-scale battles with at least 7 characters in the book that I wrote. And the trick is just to focus on a part of the battle for a few lines and then move the focus elsewhere in a way that feels organic and natural. And it's tricky, and I'm not sure I did the best job of it all throughout the book, but one thing I do like is really big critters, really big things that get the attention of everybody, and having everybody deal with something that large in their own way. As you can tell, I've sort of recovered. At about 3 this afternoon, I was just like, I don't want to write anymore. I don't want to make any more notes. I love making notes, so I went and played World of Warcraft for 3 or 4 hours. And then I felt better. And now I think I'm going to go back to creating. And I think I might actually try and start writing the first episode. The structure is going to be sort of, how do I put this? Instead of having a full book, it's going to be more like comic arcs. So it'll probably be like 4 to 6 chapters in a short arc that sort of hopefully represent a single adventure, and then move on. And at certain points, it will be clear through the prose, I hope, that the characters are leveling up and gaining new powers and abilities and finding cool stuff. So, I'm excited. I haven't done like fresh prose writing in some time, so I'm probably going to be a bit rusty. But maybe I'll share some of it when I've got some done. Until then, I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.